Subscribe.
We'll highlight all that. Don't you worry.
Just
But of
saying,
course,
you gotta remind people.
Subscribe right now.
Subscribe.
Subscribe. Of course.
Philadelphia, baby, you're gonna love it. Best sports fans in the world. Actually, the worst, but that's what makes them the best.
So Ben, you brought up how you have this like make believe career. I'm really nervous to know what exactly it entails, but I'm also genuinely curious.
All right. So ever since I moved down to West Palm, there's definitely a lot more pros down here, like practicing and stuff. And like you can tell when someone shows up to a driving range or shows up to the putting green, like you can tell if someone's a pro or not. It's pretty obvious because you don't just have your bag; you have like a tripod, or like some guys have TrackMan, or like a GC quad, or they'll have like some sort of like training aid. Like for me, like it sounds stupid, I literally will show up with my bag, my tripod, and like a giant cone for my backswing, or shut up, don't laugh, and or like a cushion for my downswing. And so I definitely get some like looks, but normally people would just like watch me hit. They wouldn't like interrupt what I'm doing. And it got to the point where when I moved down here, people started really like actually interrupting me. Like I had six instances over a span of 2 days where I had people stop me while I was practicing to like ask me like what I was doing. Are you a pro? And then I would stupidly say yes. And then it would open up like this whole dialogue of conversation, which I just don't really care to have. That sounds mean, but it's this is my job. Like, and I remember like one day there were 4 people that stopped me, and it added like an hour to an hour and a half of practice to my time. And I barely finished my practice before dark. And I was like, I'm done with this. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. Like, I'm just going to start lying about what I do because Max Homa did it. So why can't I? And so now whenever people ask me what I do, I just say I do real estate. And it immediately just like, generally they completely lose interest. It's really funny, actually. Like they just lose interest. Like they're just like, oh. Now I will say I have had 2 people just flat out not believe me at all. And I don't want to take up too much time, but the first instance, these 2 instances are actually really funny. So I show up to the course. It was 2 Thursdays ago, and I was just gonna it was 2 Fridays ago, and I was just gonna work on like basic pitching technique to start. So I had my bag, I had my tripod with me. I put him down. My buddy, who's like raking the green off, he rolls the balls over to me, and I got the alignment sticks down, and I'm setting them up and everything, and I'm just working on like pitching 101, turning the hips, making sure the club stays on plane, and keeping my body forward. And I have my MGT hat on, which stands for mental golf type. It's my mental coach's company. And I'm talking the kid who works on the range. He's talking to me about like, what I'm like doing. And there's this guy who's like eyeballing me, and he's older. And he's like getting closer, and he's like trying to like look at me. And he goes, does that hat stand for Minor League Golf Tour, which is a pro tour down here? Yeah. It's actually the only pro tour down here, I believe. And I was like, no, no, it doesn't. I don't play. I'm in real estate. And I just kept it like that. And the guy goes, oh, okay. And so like me being like kind of stupid, I didn't really think that he was like still right there. And so my buddy and I were just like, I'm still talking about like what I'm working on. And then we start talking about Anthony Kim. And I was like, yeah, like it's nice to see him back. Yeah, we're going to talk about it tonight on the podcast. Like I vividly remember saying that. And this guy is like looking at me this whole time.
Dude, like, bro, this fucking kid.
Oh my gosh. Like, and so I'm like just practicing. And like, I mean, dude, and I'm not even kidding. I'm spinning the crap out of these pitch shots. I mean, you want to talk about like mid-flight nippers that just hit, bounce once and grab. I mean, these things are like, oh my God, so good. Like, no amateur is going to be like hitting these shots. And the guy starts walking away with his buddy, and he was actually really annoyed with me. And he goes, "Yeah, I know you're not. I know you're not in real estate. I know you're a pro. Blah 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 blah. Like, of course you're a pro. Like, you showed up with your fucking tripod." And I just looked at him and I was like, "Hey man, like, I'm just using it to, I just use it to take videos so I can sell houses."
So I can sell houses.
And so it gets better. And so he's like, "Yeah, right." And I just finally looked at him. I was like, "Fine, dude. It's so I can film and record my OnlyFans."
That's fucking great.
And then then a couple days later, and like my buddy's listening to this whole thing, and he was just like, "Damn," he was like kind of pissed off at you. I was like, "Whatever, dude." Like, it helped me avoid having a 20-minute conversation at the end of the day, so I could like get stuff done.
Yeah.
And then this past Friday, I'm on the range and I'm just working on like basically every Friday. I only do technique because Thursday is my off day. So then I get back from Orlando late Wednesday night. I take Thursday off. Then Friday is like my technique day. It's still a grind of a day. And so I have like my big yellow cone, and I'm just working on setup, backswing, downswing, like weight distribution, stuff like that. And I'm just hitting these wedges just from 78 yards, like one after the other after the other. And I'm hitting them well. Like I was spinning these balls a lot on an AstroTurf green, like to the point where like they're holding no problem. It's like you can tell, like, all right, like this kid like knows what he's doing. And also the cone says Mike Bender on it. So anyway.
So oblivious.
Yeah, whatever, dude. I don't care anymore. And so this guy who's hitting behind me, he starts like, I'm like talking that same buddy that that same buddy that I was telling you about, who like was cleaning the balls off the green. Well, he was on the range that day, and he's like watching me hit, asking what I'm working on. And this guy behind me, he starts like looking at my bag, like not like really close, but like he's like trying to like look at like either the clubs or like the head covers. And it was just like really weird. And he basically accused me of stealing his head cover. Okay. This is how the conversation went. He goes, he's like, "I have that same head cover and someone stole it."
Oh God.
That's what he said to start the conversation. I was like, okay. He goes, "Yeah, I have that same one." He's like, "But he's like, is that a 3-wood one?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's a 3-wood." He goes, "Oh, mine was a hybrid one." I said, "Yeah, I don't hit hybrids, dude." Like I was actually really annoyed. And he's like, "Yeah, it's from the bridge. Like my friends, they played my sons, they played the Ike there." I was like, "Oh yeah, I played the Ike there too. Oh yeah." And it's an amateur tournament, just so you know. And it's on the east end of Long Island. And so he then goes, "Are you a pro?" And I said, "No, man, I do real estate." And I'm just like trying to blow this guy off. And he's like, at least like the first guy, he like just left me alone. This guy, he was like, he's like, "Oh," he's like, "Did you play in school?" I was like, "Yeah, I played at Xavier University, and I just, I played, and I wanted to work. I said I want to just get to work and just like make money." And he was like, "Oh, because I see you practicing here all the time." And I was like, "Well, I like golf, and I played competitively, and I enjoy the sport. I'm trying to make this as believable as possible." And he goes, yeah, that cone, it says Mike Bender on it. And I was like, yeah, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, ranked as the fourth best coach in the country, I believe. Yeah, I used him in college and high school, and like I still take lessons from him and stuff just because, I like golf and I want to get better. And he goes, when did you graduate? And I was like, December 2021. And he goes, so you graduated in December 2021. You practice here and you live in Ibis, which for reference, the average age here is like 65, 70 years old. And
Tired early.
It's a lot of like people with way too much time and a lot of money. Like that's really what it is. So like I do not at all fit this age like bracket at all.
Yeah.
And I was like, and he was like, and you're a member here. And I said, yep, 100%. He's like, what kind of real estate do you do? And I was like, I do residential for Sotheby's. And I just like trying so hard.
That's so bad. You couldn't have said like Berkshire Hathaway.
Oh, I didn't, dude. I'm not that quick, man. Whatever. And so,
this guy's like, oh, I also work for Sotheby's.
And so then he's like talking to me, and he's like, well, how is it? How is it in real estate right now? I said, I mean, it's not what it was a year and a half, 2 years ago. We were basically in a housing bubble, but it's not bad. And I just was like, I do pretty well for myself.
You're a dick.
And then this guy just like wouldn't leave me alone. And he was just like, he's like, yeah, my son here, and he went to this school, and my other son, blah, blah, blah. Did you play the Ike last year at whatever course it was at? I was like, I was working. And one of the most, and then by the way, after he's like, yeah, I took my hybrid out on number 6 or 7, and I haven't seen my head cover since. I must have lost it. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, so you went from thinking someone stole it to thinking I stole it to thinking that now you lost it on the course, which is exactly what happened. And I just looked and I said, yeah, dude, you're never getting that head cover back because like, no way. Like they don't like that place has like a gate. Like you can't get like JJ Redick's a member out there, I think. Like
I've always wanted to get the head cover of the bridge. It's cool.
I have a buddy that works there. I can hook you up. But
let me know. I'm intrigued.
Yeah, so that was that's my make-believe career. So that's just what I tell people now. It's not really going well. Like people like they'll watch me at a driver and they're like, "You play professionally?" I'm like, "Nah, man. I play for fun. I played in college and whatever. I just work in real estate now." And they just look at me like there's just absolutely no way. There's no way.
What you should do is just go around and go, "Oh yeah, hi, I'm Stuart Hagstad. Like, how are you?"
I look nothing like Stuart. I practiced next to him.
You don't have to look like Stuart, but people are just fucking stupid. And when they hear it, they're like, all right, the 37-year-old amateur who works in finance but still fucking beats half the field of the Masters. Which is hilarious, Bob. By the way, that guy is a grinder and a half.
Oh, he's a great player.
He's fantastic. And yet he opts to work on Wall Street, which, I mean, I get it. You make a shit ton of money. So it all makes sense.
It's not quite. I don't think it's quite as stressful as playing professional golf. So
no, I don't think so at all. Depends what it is.
Get in the Hole is brought to you by PHI Apparel Company, our incredible merch partners. PHI Apparel Co. provides unique designs and high quality clothing from t-shirts to hoodies for every golfer around. With their original designs for all, there's no doubt you'll stand out on the course, the driving range, or at the 19th hole. Go to phiapparel.co and use code UNDERGROUND at checkout for 10% off any order. That's code UNDERGROUND at phiapparel.co and grab exclusive Get in the Hole podcast merch and support your favorite golfers.
Hello and welcome into the Get in the Hole podcast, the show where we give you all the news in the world of golf with some fun commentary as always. Steve McAvoy, Ben Pirro here. Scottie Scheffler takes home his first title of the year at Bay Hill. Anthony Kim has some mechanical issues, and of course, the Players' Championship coming up. Always looking forward to it. Once again, you're here. We're joining us. Oh, what is that? Your hybrid?
It's the hybrid that my dad made me get back in college because I was transitioning to a 2-iron because historically I don't like hybrids. And I was like, Dad, I don't want the hybrid. He's like, get the hybrid. I said, Dad, I don't want the hybrid. He's like, get the hybrid. I said, if you get it for me, I'm not going to hit it. He made me get it. And I said, because every time I would hit hybrids, I would just I set the club down. I'm like, this ball's going high left every single time. I hit this thing 2 times. Both of them went left. I put it in the bag, haven't hit it since. So if anybody's in need of a hybrid that's only been hit twice with a pretty much brand new grip on it, because I only used it a couple times, we can negotiate prices. It's a pretty looking thing. I mean, it is. You need a new hybrid?
I'll give you $5 on a kiss.
You are actually so insulting. Now I'm not even going to get you a Christmas gift.
Christmas gift. The more important thing is a wedding gift.
I got you there.
Thank you, because it's for my wife. Wink, wink, not me. The whole podcast brought to you by Acorn Hills, bringing you stylish apparel for on and off the course, all by using biodegradable packaging and plantable clothing tags. Acorn Hills is changing clothing through conservation. Use code GETINTHEHOLE, GITH15, for 15% off your next order at acornhills.co, and look your best from the ground on up. As well, we're sponsored by Tomahawk Shades, the best small batch eyewear in the industry, founded on Long Island and run by some of the biggest personalities in sports, including Chris Hogan, Kyle Harrison, and golf's favorite Paige Spiranek. Tomahawk Shades is guaranteed to keep you looking fresh from the first hole to the 18th green and beyond. Head to TomahawkShades.com or download the Tomahawk Shades app on the App Store or Google Play Store and browse their selection of sunglasses, blue light plus glasses, and prescription lenses. Be sure to use code USP, 25% off of your next order at TomahawkShades.com. Ben, we lead the show off with Scottie Scheffler taking home his first victory of the year at Bay Hill, a 5-stroke victory, gained 3.5 strokes on the green in the final round. The crazy stat that I read, he lost strokes on approach in the final round, but still managed to create at one point a 6-stroke buffer with how good he was putting the golf ball. Of course, the story behind all of this is his change to a mallet putter. We'll get into the semantics of that in a little bit. But what's your reaction on Scottie's first win? The question now is, can he go back-to-back? Is this proving that, of course, the number one player of the world, while the putter hasn't been fantastic, when the putter is on, he could win literally any week?
I think, look, I mean, I totally get what you're saying. Most pro golfers, like on the PGA Tour, when the putter's on, they can win any week. Most guys, there are some guys with limitations, like Luke Donald is a good example, right? Luke Donald for a long time was considered one of the best putters on the PGA Tour, right? But he hit it short and crooked off the tee, and that was a significant hindrance to his game, so he had to putt well. Mm-hmm. But when you have someone who is a very gifted ball striker and putts the way that that Scheffler can putt, like how we've seen him putt historically, you can run the table on anybody. And I think anyone with kind of like that kind of skill set, that physical skill set with the long game and the approach game, when they putt well, they're very difficult to beat. So what I'm saying is this isn't limited to just Scottie, but it's really like probably a group of like 20 to 25 guys in the PGA Tour who hit the ball like him. When they putt like that, they can beat anybody. So, I mean, look, this could definitely open the floodgates for him. I'm sure he's, I don't remember what the odds are for him with the Players, but I mean, I'm sure he's first on the odds board. I mean, it'd be shocking. He is. Okay. Look, if he went back to back to back, would I be surprised? Absolutely not. But I cannot remember the last time a back-to-back-to-back champion happened on the PGA Tour. It might have been Steve Stricker at the John Deere back in like the early 2010s. Was it? Man,
Uh,
if I'm right on this one, you owe me.
no, it was Steve Stricker, but I feel like someone did it more recently.
I'm trying to.
Actually, it might have been Max Homa at the Fortnite. No,
Was it?
no, because Thagala won. Someone's won 3 straight times it's a fall swing event.
Darn it!
But prior to them, it was.
Because I feel like we've had this conversation before. I know we have.
I'm almost positive we had, and I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna like kill myself if I don't find this.
I don't think that there was, because I remember I picked I think I picked Homa to win to three-peat, and he didn't. And I was like, he's going to be the first one since Steve Stricker to three-peat at a tour event.
Well, I will say this: he's not three-peating this week because it was JT and then Scottie Scheffler. But anyhow, no, I think the putting stat for him though is significant, and like you're saying, I think a good example of who you're alluding to is like a Will Zalatoris, where he does everything well, but the putter struggled for him. Same thing with like Corey Connors. But when they're on, and almost can't be stopped. When Corey Connors won at the Valero last year, his putting game was phenomenal. It's like everything just came together at the right time. Even when Zalatoris won at the FedEx, at the FedEx St. Jude, again, everything came together. I saw a crazy stat though, and I was so lucky to be sitting on my couch on Friday looking at these numbers. Scottie Scheffler for the year, dating back to last year's Players Championship, inside of 10 feet has a putt percentage average of 83.9. The tour average is 87.8. So he ranked 180th going into this week in putting inside the 10 feet. Inside 5 feet, he's at 94.5, which is 171st on tour. Tour average is 97. And inside of 3 feet, he had a make percentage of 98.7, which seems like a crazy number, but that was only good for 158th on tour. The average was 99.3. So Scheffler's putting numbers for the last year have not been strong. And now a lot of it is due to the idea that the mallet putter that he pulled out, he's gone from Scottie Scheffler from a blade. He used the Olsen premier milled putter that was like brand new, like a month ago or two. We saw it on tour. Now all of a sudden changed to the TaylorMade Spider, and everything kind of came into play. This week, Scottie Scheffler made his last 23 putts from inside of 15 feet. He gained over 3 strokes putting with the mallet. And then on top of that, with the putting statistic this week, since 2003, since ShotLink was first introduced to the PGA Tour, Scottie's the only player in history at Bay Hill to finish top 12 in all 4 major statistics. He finished first off the tee, 12th on approach, which actually was third going into the final round and dropped all the way to 12th. First around the greens and 5th putting. That's how good he played this past week. And again, a lot of that in part to the mallet putter. As the pro in the room, have you used a mallet? I know you're a blade guy because you have your Scottie, but what's the advantages, disadvantages that Scottie might be having switching over to a more mallet style putter?
Well, number one, I just want to point out, going into this past week, he was second in FedEx Cup points, and that's with bad putting numbers, right?
Yeah.
So that shows like how elite this guy is. I wouldn't say there's an advantage or a disadvantage to having a mallet. I used to use a mallet. I've used one kind of basically. I used one in college, and then I switched over to the blade. And then for a little while last year, I was putting so poorly, I went back to the mallet. And then I was like, this is I hate the mallet. So I went back to the blade. And here's the thing. Most blade putters are toe balanced. So the toe opens and closes more like this. Whereas most mallet putters are face balanced.
Mm-hmm.
So the difference for that is a putter that's toe balanced, like a blade putter, you'll see it work more in an arc, because that way the putter opens and closes when you're going back and through. And the belief is for a mallet, yes, obviously the putting stroke and every swing in golf works in an arc, but a mallet, because it's more face balanced, is meant to be more of like straight back, straight through stroke. So there's not as much twisting and turning of the face. Does that make sense? So I
Yes.
mean, look, maybe I don't know. Maybe he was like maybe who knows? Maybe he was just struggling with his stroke, and he was just like, it's so straight back and straight through, blah 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 blah. Well, I'm just gonna go to a mallet. I mean, who knows? I don't really know what was going through his head when he made what was going through his head when he made the change. But that's generally like the difference that you would see in the strokes, just so the viewers know, and the reason for that.
It is ironic how Rory McIlroy, some of like 3 weeks ago, had said that Scottie should have moved to the mallet. It might have given him better success on the greens. Lo and behold, this is how it goes. Rory has said, and I quote, he would love to see Scottie try a mallet putter, would certainly help his game out. He's noticed that he tends to push the ball a little more with the way his motion is. So the mallet could very well support his game. And lo and behold, here you go. Scottie Scheffler finds the winner's circle.
I'm just waiting for Rory. Rory's what? He's going to be 35 soon. I'm just. I wonder if he's ever going to learn to shut his mouth. That's what I want to know. Honestly, like, why would you? Like, I don't know. I'm sure he didn't mean it to be like a douche, but
no. It's probably supportive. I would think.
I would just say, but if someone said that about me, I'd be like, shut your mouth. You're like 90 something right now in FedEx Cup points. Like, give me a break, dude. Like, come on. He's not having a good year, by the way. So,
and again, like going back to Scottie's dominance, like we understand he's the number one player in the world for a reason, and of course, like there's always going to be that one part of your golf game that fails you at some point when you're on the course, and trying to analyze it and break it down and fix it while you're on the course is only going to worsen you out. So Scottie's been top 10 in approach game. He's been amazing off the tee, which has been the bread and butter for years, and then on top of that, it's his ability around the green to be able to find his way. It's only really been the putter for the last 12 months. Now that it's figured out, and again, this is the same story from 2 years ago when he went on a 5 wins in seven matches pace. He wins in bunches because the putter gets incredibly hot. That if you look at Data Golf, the chart, the bar graph that they have for his strokes gained putting, basically like it lulls, just takes a giant spike and then dips back down. Between what was it? It was the Waste Management and the Masters. That was he had the 4 or 5 win run. The Waste Management, the Masters, the Match Play, Bay Hill, and the Players. I think, or not the Players, something else. But again, that's just where we're at, and very well could see him go even further. Puerto Rico this week. We didn't talk about it much on the show with KB, but the importance of an event like the Puerto Rico Open really came to light. And I want to give a shout out to Monday Q Info, who does a great job, of course, covering all things in the qualifier stage and in the side events, the alternate events. So much good came out of this event in particular, and I want to highlight a lot of it. One thing that I learned actually from him is that the guys who have conditional PGA Tour status, they have a combined 4 starts on tour all year between the 10 guys who finished in the fall swing. And Bryce Garnett, who's one of those guys, made his first start on the PGA Tour this year at the Puerto Rico Open, won the event, now gets his 2 years of job security. He was crying in the interview room. He was like, I've been doing, because Bryce has been around forever.
Yeah.
I think he was a runner-up actually at the Players, or won the week prior back in 2017. So like has already been to the mountaintop of golf, was struggling with job security, and now finally has it. And that's the importance and the value of the Puerto Rico Open. I say it was live and la vida loca because it literally went from a 4-hole playoff to two-man race. Top performances by Hayden Springer, Adrian Dumont de Chassart, of course, who is just coming out of college, Ben Coles, who former KFT Player of the Year, Joe Highsmith out of Pepperdine, and another top flight player coming in, and Jackson Von Paris, by the way, a terrific name, finished top 10 as an amateur this week at Puerto Rico. A lot of really good things came out of it, and honestly, for a large part of the evening on Sunday and Saturday, I found myself sitting on the couch watching the Puerto Rico Open and not Bay Hill. And part of it maybe is because Scottie Scheffler was just dominating the field on Sunday. He built that 5-stroke lead, and it was like no one's going to catch him. But there was something about Puerto Rico this week that was very special, and I think we have to give a lot more love to those guys who have to Monday qualify in and have to play in these alternate events in order to get that status up and find their way on to the everyday PGA Tour circuit.
No, I mean, I completely agree. I mean, these smaller events, they can, despite the fact that the purses aren't nearly the same. I mean, the winner I think made what, like $720,000 this week.
Yeah.
Is that what it is? Like, I mean, like, hey man, it's a nice paycheck for sure. I mean, you make that much money in a week, you're not complaining.
Yeah.
But these are kind of known as like the island events, because you have like the one in the Dominican, and you have like the one in like the Bermuda, and then you have the one in Puerto Rico. This one in Puerto Rico. Like they call it like the island tour or something. But you know, it's incredibly important for the guys who don't have full status, who don't qualify for the elevated events via like world ranking or FedEx Cup or what they've done that year. I mean, there have been some that event itself has really springboarded a lot of young players' careers. Hey, I mean, I'm talking household names like Jordan Spieth. He left college after a year, and then he almost won that event. I believe he finished like tied for second. He had a hole in one-on-one hole. I remember it was like crazy. I remember Victor Hovland. I think won that event.
Yep.
It's almost been like a mini Quail Hollow, because for a while Quail Hollow was the site of a lot of really young guys coming out and winning, the likes of like Anthony Kim. I forget who won in 2009, but and then 2010 Rory won it. I believe that was his first PGA Tour event. So this event, it's a springboard for a lot of young players, but it's also a kind of a get right week for a lot of veteran guys as well, who are trying to get FedEx Cup points. You know,
Exactly.
Those are the events, that and like what used to be called the Barbasol, and then like I forget which one they do like the Stableford scoring at. Is it the Barracuda? I think that's
the Barracuda. Yeah.
Yeah, like those events, those are huge for so many tour pros. And I mean, that can be the difference between, I mean, geez, like a make or break. I mean, there's a guy who plays on the mini tours, who won this event back in like 2009, I believe. What was his name? He played in it this week because I checked
at the Puerto Rico.
At the Derek Lamley, I believe it was.
Yeah, 2010.
Oh, 2010. Darn it, I was off.
Close. Michael Bradley won it in 09. Also a great soccer player. Different guys, though. Also a great soccer player, Michael Bradley, but two different guys.
Oh, okay. Well, but regardless, it's a very important event, and I've been on that course before. I didn't play it, but I've been on that course with my dad. It's a beautiful place. The wind is always blowing. My good friend Austin Truslow actually made a hole-in-one there when he got a sponsor. I believe he got a sponsor's exemption to that event, and made a hole-in-one the last day, and finished top 10, which then got him into the Honda, or what used to be the Honda, the next week. So
yeah,
it can springboard you. So hey, good for him. Obviously, it's well deserved, and yeah, good for him.
Yeah, I had made note of this last week on the show in terms of those guys who have made strides here. Jason Day back in 2009 when he was coming up, he finished runner-up. Jordan Spieth in 2013, as you had mentioned, the runner-up. In 2015, Emiliano Grillo finished runner-up. In 2016, of course, Tony Finau's first win on the PGA Tour came at the Puerto Rico. Of course, didn't have one until the Northern Trust in 2019, but at the very least, that was his springboard to stardom at that point. Bryson finished runner-up in 2017 and 2019. Martin Traynor won with Aaron Baddeley, Daniel Berger, Roger Sloan, all coming in second place. Jonathan Vegas when Brandon Grace won. Hovland won in 2020. And then, of course, Nico Echeverria won in 23 and beat out Akshay Bhatia, now both on the PGA Tour. So definitely a event that I personally now enjoy. And I think that early on when I started the show, I really didn't give appreciation to those events because I was like, oh, well, like who really cares about those guys? But my eyes have really been opened up over the last 2 years about how the difference in the golf world has become so apparent, and how, of course, we're having LIVGolf and the limited fields, and now even we have Rory and Wyndham Clark talking about wanting to limit tour cards and all this shit. And we'll talk about that next. But now you're seeing these events become even more important because some guys don't get the opportunity to even get sponsor exemptions or alternate spots to PGA Tour events. This is where they can come out and they can really show out. Which actually wants me to segue in here. We're going to kind of shake the schedule up of the show a little bit, but this over the week, I don't know what spurred this, but both Rory McIlroy and Wyndham Clark made comments about how so Rory had made a note about a World Golf Tour earlier in the week. This had been discussed over a month ago. And then when re-asked about it, he said, I also think it'd be really cool to see the PGA Tour cap their tour cards at 100 players. Wyndham Clark then turned around and agreed with him and said, I would love to have the top 100 players in the world playing on the PGA Tour and do a relegation type system where the bottom ranking players have to go down to a different level, whatever it might be. Of course, there is no math to it. But what's your take on Rory and Wyndham's thought as a up and coming pro trying to make his bread?
Yeah, let's divide the golf world even more. I think that's a great idea. I mean, hasn't Rory been saying like, I just want there to be one tour and I want the golf world is so divided. That regardless makes the golf world more divided. Like, look, like there's roughly 250 guys in the PGA Tour. You have these limited field events, which, you know what? I didn't want to do this because I said I was going to try to be more positive and polite in the workplace.
Yeah, shocker, right?
Yeah, nice. Have a little faith in me.
Little.
Jerk. Wait.
Yes.
Okay, here we go. I'm working on it. Sorry. I don't know.
You're good.
I hate this computer. I'm just pulling up the leaderboard from this past week because I want to make sure. You're really cute. It's a good thing I like you.
I don't think you do.
I do. Actually. I'm going to your wedding, jerk off. Okay.
Whoa, hey.
Steven, take a guess. What was Rory McIlroy's FedEx Cup rank going into this past week?
77th.
Higher.
Like worse?
Oh, yeah.
94th.
Worse.
130.
Okay, no, not that bad.
10.
97.
Okay.
Now, Rory had a very underwhelming performance, I think it's safe to say, where very few players even missed the cut. Rory finished 21st, tied for 21st, and moved up 31 spots in the FedEx Cup. We're in March. He had an underwhelming week by his standards and at one of the most competitive events of the year, and he moved up over 30 spots. And now we want to take guys away even more from the PGA Tour. And I believe this was on Golf Channel. I think it was. No, actually, no. This was on another golf podcast. I don't know if Kyle will be okay with this, but I'm going to shout this person out anyway. I think it's called the Go Low podcast. I know you and I and he made a fantastic point. You and I have openly talked about how the amount of first-time winners, this is great for us because it gives us a lot of stories, right? And we're also golf junkies, right? So we enjoy seeing new faces and new names compete at high levels on the highest stage. He made a great point saying that this is a bad year for the PGA Tour itself because the superstars left and then the ones that are still here aren't winning, which is really bad for ratings for because of the casual golf fan. Most fans are more casual than we are because they cover the sport like we do.
Naturally, yeah.
I don't understand. Like, I think someone in Rory's case as well, he's about to be 35. He's on the back end of his prime. I don't know if he's starting to feel the pressure. I don't know if he thinks that like his door is closing and that he thinks by having less players on tour that he's going to like maybe like rattle off more wins and maybe like eclipse Phil Mickelson or something on that list or whatever. But I got to tell you what, man, I don't think that is not the solution at all. That's not. Like, what are you just gonna like all of a sudden you're gonna have these guys go through Q school, you're gonna have these guys go through the Corn Ferry Tour, and then you're gonna sit there and you're gonna be like, you know what? I know that you finished top 5 on the KFT money list last year and you busted your butt. You're not going to be on the PGA Tour because you don't qualify as a top 100 golfer in our eyes.
Yeah.
Or like the guy who, you know, finishes 102nd in the FedEx Cup will always keep his card. Now, what? He's just going to lose his card and he's going to go back to the Corn Ferry Tour. I think it's so ludicrous. I do. I think it's, and I'm shocked Wyndham Clark said it, especially considering he had a Mickey Mouse win at the AT&T at Pebble Beach. And I really didn't want to say that, but it's kind of true because let's face it, it got rained out and he had guys right behind him. That it was not a sure thing that he was going to win.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like Rahm where he got COVID and he was up by 8. It's not at all the case. So I think it's so stupid. I really do. Like, why do we want to divide the game even more than it already is? You know, and I don't know. And I know, like we came out with the tweet that Rory was offered $1 billion by LIV and all that stuff. He looks like so miserable. That's the other thing. He looks so miserable. I saw a video of him today when he pulled up to the players, like carrying his stuff, and he just looked like absolutely miserable. And he looks like he's aged so much. I don't know what's going on with him. But he says like some of the dumbest things. And
I haven't watched Full Swing yet, but from what I have gathered, there's a lot of back and forth with Rory McIlroy concerning how he almost felt like fucked over, for lack of a better term, by the idea that the PGA Tour was so anti-LIV, and then they kind of turned around and said, "Oh, we're going to try and merge, and we're going to try and come to an agreement with them." And Rory was like, the reason why he left the policy board was not because he had too much on his plate with the TGL and everything else. It's because he was fed up with the bullshit, and he was still so adamant about staying on the PGA Tour. And yeah, we have this report that he was offered $1 billion. We don't. He said he's going to stay. I don't think he's going to leave. But there's a part in the show where he literally goes, at this point, just like do whatever the fuck you want, because like no one's gonna listen to anybody. No one's gonna listen to anyone anyways. And I think like Rory has the right idea, right? With wanting to do a world golf like league. So kind of do, the best way I can describe it is like European football and like international football. They have your domestic schedules, but you also have the International Champions League, the Europa League that's played within that. You obviously don't need to play every single week. Like we saw, Rory had a subpar week. You make a lot of money for coming in 20th, and you took 30 spots in the FedEx Cup. Like, he can play 15 events for the year and make his quota to get into East Lake, particularly if he plays well at one playoff event, which might happen. Then you have guys like a Ben Coles or a Bryce Garnett or Joe Highsmith, some of the new guys on the scene, who need to grind every single week because they're not in that echelon to constantly win. And I get it. Yeah, we've had a lot of first-time winners on tour this year. And really, when you look at the leaderboards, the only players who are like big time, quote unquote, names, Chris Kirk, Wyndham Clark in that Mickey Mouse win, Nick Taylor, Hideki Matsuyama. Otherwise, everyone's been a rookie. Austin Eckroat, rookie. Jake Knapp, rookie. Nick Dunlap, amateur. Matthew Pavon, not a rookie, but unknown up until now. Grayson Murray, unknown up until now, outside of being a Twitter troll. So like you look at it from that aspect, yes, it's great for us. It's bad for ratings in the golf world, but also you're right. Are we getting to a point where Rory's afraid of competition? Or Wyndham Clark, which, by the way, for those of you who don't know anything about Wyndham Clark, didn't get on the PGA Tour until he was 30 years old. He grinded through Q School 5 straight years and missed out every single year. Got on the Corn Ferry Tour, it took over 4.5 years until he finally broke through because he made a 47-foot putt to make it onto the PGA Tour. Wyndham Clark's the last fucking person who's talking about cutting the events down to 100 people. Because if it wasn't for him making one miraculous lag putt, he would still probably be struggling to even make it here. Someone put a tweet out, which is hilarious, and I want to read it to you. Wyndham Clark is the worst kind of piece of shit. Didn't break through until he was 30 years old and now has the status. The status is safe. Wants to fuck over as many others as possible. Dude is a despicable scumbag. If you weren't sure who the bad guys were, he's Exhibit A. Shout out to D Steen 311 for that one. Like, where are we going here? It's good if you want to have a world golf tour and you can invite the top 50 players in the world and do your elevated events. We've already made it very clear that we don't like the idea of them because the poor stay poor and the rich get richer. But at the very least, having 144 men events like this week at the Players, where it's actually about the players and qualifying for it and working your way up to it. And the leaderboard speaks for itself. We've had so many different people win this event. From Siwoo Kim, who got, I think, like a second career win here, to Webb Simpson, to Justin Thomas, to Scottie Scheffler. Like, anybody can win any given week, and that's what this year has proven. Whether or not it's good for ratings or not is a different story. But we should be not talking about this, but rather talking about a way to just integrate golf. And I feel like the fight no longer is, and this is a different point, but the fight's no longer LIV versus the PGA. It's just how can we get both to live in harmony and work a way out where it's kind of like two different leagues all playing a part of one umbrella. It's like the American and the National League in baseball. Like, that's really where hopefully golf gets to, and we can integrate it more. But the idea of limiting it down to 100 guys and you relegate the bottom 15, it's all bullshit.
It's so, I think it's so stupid. And you know what? Like, people might think like I remember you got absolutely roasted on Twitter for like something you said about Rory, which was completely unfair. And it was just like a bunch of people that didn't know, that just didn't care to take the time to understand what you were saying.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunately like the large majority of society. You know, people just see something and they react. My biggest issue with Rory is he has like this victim mentality. Like, he's always the victim. And he's been acting like this. Like I always said, I hated the body language. I hated the facial expressions when he wouldn't win. It was always like a pouty, boo-hoo, woe is me. And like, I get it. You know, some players react differently than others to when they're not successful. Like, I understand that for sure, you know. But I hate people that have a victim's mentality. I hate that. I think it is I think it's a loser quality, and that's exactly what he has. And because I know we got to probably get going on to another segment. People are like, oh, geez, you know, Scottie Scheffler, he hasn't pulled through. When's he going to win? Oh, I don't know. When's he going to win? He was second going into this week in the FedEx Cup, and he was having like a quote unquote like down year because of his putting. Rory going into this week was barely inside the top 100. And I'm sure Scottie maybe has played some more events than Rory has, but you get the picture. So I think this might be Rory. I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, 'cause we know his status on the tour is solidified.
Yeah.
And we know, like, he's 35 years old. He's on the back end of his prime. He's not Tiger. He's proven to be a very sensitive person. I don't know. I'm not going to say like he's scared of competition, because I don't think you can become that successful, as successful as he has been.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that a part of me thinks like, is he like trying to just like ride the coattails of the PGA Tour for like the next 10 years until he walks away? I don't know. I really don't. I just think, man, just like that's like the last thing that we need. That's like the last. Like, he seems so unhappy with the PGA Tour and everything that's gone on. When, just so you know, he admitted that LIV was a good idea, and he actually knew things before other guys on tour knew about negotiations and stuff. So I don't really believe anything the guy says anymore, because he's proven to be just like a big fat liar, and he just likes to like talk shit and stir the pot, but only when he's winning, which says that he's a front runner. Says that he doesn't have a lot of dog in him. So he's
in his last 4 events, Rory McIlroy has finished 66th, 24th, 21st, and 21st.
Yeah.
Scottie finished 6th, 3rd, 10th, and 1st.
Yeah, and that's bad before this week. It's
a down year, and yet people jerk off Rory McIlroy.
Like, yeah, I know. It's honestly,
it makes sense.
It's amazing to me, man. It really is. So I don't know what the guy is going through, but he's like if you're so unhappy with the PGA Tour, just go to the DP World Tour. Honestly,
he plays better there anyways.
I know he does, because the competition isn't as good anyway. Like it's not.
There you go.
It's not. I think, for like the longest time, like I've just been sitting there thinking to myself, like, dude, you're so unhappy with the PGA Tour now because of all this stuff and how like they went against what you were saying, even though you were in the know the whole time and you had these thoughts anyway, whatever. Just go to the DP World Tour. It's a world tour.
Exactly.
Actually, just one last thing. There's a YouTuber, Mr. Short Game, I think he's called. He does like all of like the Anthony Kim like highlights, like shot for shot, rough almost. That's where I've been getting all my AK info from. He said he even said, he's like, I think Rory's going to go to the DP World Tour full time.
What makes sense?
It's a world tour. So shout out to Mr. Short Game for that, because I was like, damn, I did not think of that at all. Because he would be the star. He would be the guy on the DP World Tour.
Speaking of Mr. Short Game, on the other side, we're going to take a short break. On the other side, we're going to break down how Anthony Kim has fared in his first 2 weeks on the LIV Golf Tour via our resident pro, Ben Pirro. And, of course, we'll give you some mail call talk for the players and our beer money coming up right on the other side here from the Underground. Welcome back into the Whole Podcast. Here, Stephen Ben, brought to you by our friends over at PHR Apparel Co., our incredible merch partners. They provide unique designs, high-quality clothing from T-shirts to hoodies for every golfer around. With their original designs for all, there's no doubt that you'll stand out on the course, the range, and, of course, on the 19th hole. Go to phrapparel.co. Use code UNDERGROUND at checkout for 10% off any order. That's code UNDERGROUND at phrapparel.co. And grab some exclusive Get in the Hole merch. I know, Ben, you've got your hoodie. Mine's currently in transit. Looking forward to rocking that during the nice breeze of the spring season. So, Ben, as you mentioned, Mr. Short Game, what's chats to Anthony Kim here? So 2 weeks down on the LIV Golf Tour. And actually, surprisingly enough, dude, shot 65 in Hong Kong this week, which is actually quite impressive for someone who has not golfed in a decade and is making only his second week of starts in the golf space. What have you noticed from Anthony? What have you seen that's maybe standing out, maybe a little bit different from what he used to do, say, a decade ago?
Okay, so one of the things, his demeanor, I think, from the first tournament to the second tournament, I think was a little bit different. The first tournament, he almost looked a little bit timid. It looked like he wasn't really like, there's a term in golf called like steering the ball. And Mr. Short Game pointed this out. It looks like, because he talks while AK is hitting the shots. Mm-hmm. And hats off to this guy. I mean, his sleep schedule is like so screwed up because he was watching them play in, I think it was Saudi Arabia was the first one. And
Jeddah at 4 a.m. with me.
Yeah. And then he stayed up and watched the one in Hong Kong. And I'm just like, this poor guy. It's like, I mean, he's a lifer, man. I mean, good for him. But he made a really good comment in the first week. He was like, it really looks like Anthony's really steering the ball. And I definitely agreed with him there. His attitude, and I think Mr. Short Game also alluded to this, he seemed very passive, which was not like AK when he was coming up on the PGA Tour. and when he was in his heyday. And I noticed in the second tournament, he wasn't steering the ball quite as much, which is good to see, especially because it was a much more narrow golf course. That course was very tight, and especially compared to the first week. And he seemed much more. He was definitely engaged the first week because you could tell he was definitely engaged. But he almost had like a fire lit under his ass that second week. And who knows, maybe he was like reading comments and hearing people say like, oh, this is a gimmick, this is a joke, like the Live Tour just proved it's not credible because they brought this joke of a player in, blah, 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 blah. Like, who knows, maybe that motivated him. But one of the things I really wanted to touch on, because this is a mechanical session, so I'm gonna dive into this for you guys. This is a mental thing that is bleeding into the physical. So one thing that you'll notice with golfers, when it depends on your personality and such, when a golfer gets too far out into the future, their sequencing between their upper body and lower body gets out of whack. And that's because generally they're looking to see the ball where the ball goes. Okay, so like you want to see where it goes, but when you're out of sync between your upper and your lower body, that creates a lot of left and right misses. But because what happens is when your hips move first, the club then gets stuck behind you, and then it's too far under plane. So you can time it and still hit it good because you're coming from the inside, but you can hit big hooks, you can hit big pushes as well. Okay, and that's the dreaded two-way miss. That's not what you want. And so, AK he's always been a fade type of player. And you can see when he's not swinging well, he gets like this high right shoulder when he's coming through impact, like post impact. And then he starts leaning left this way. Okay. And that shows that he's getting too far out ahead of his upper body. And his arms and legs aren't sequenced up. He's not matching up. That's the term we use in golf, matching up. And what happens is when that happens, everything's disconnected. So instead of your swing moving in an arc like this, because like we said earlier in the show, everything moves in an arc. This is your backswing, but instead of your through swing going around this way, your hands and arms tend to run. I'm having a tough time right here. They run out towards the right. And that's what creates the big blocks and the big hooks. And so I think for AK, he needs to, and I know this past week was a little bit different because it was a short and funky course and you kind of had to shape the ball. I would personally like to see him do less shot shaping and stick to one shot shape, which for him is his normal fade. That's what he plays. That's his stock shot. And I would like to see him stay more present. And one of the things I think he would benefit from is watching the club hit the ball. Not keeping his head down. There are two different things. And I know technically, it's like keeping your head down longer. I mean, Brooks Koepka, he keeps his eyes and his head down the longest of anybody on the PGA Tour. And he has 5 majors, right? So it's worked for him anyway. Yeah. So I think if AK could sit there and he's like, I'm going to watch the club hit the ball, I think he would fare much better. And he would fare much better through the bag. Because the good news is with AK, and Mr. Short Game alluded to this, he's third on live in putting. I was like, when he said that, I was like, wow, that's actually pretty impressive because usually your short game and your touch is the first thing to go. And because it's the first thing to go, it's the hardest thing to get back. I mean, when he shot the 65, look, it was kind of an ugly 65, and I don't mean that to sound harsh, but it was kind of true. I mean, he made a lot of putts for par. But his stroke, like Mr. Short Game said, it's very fluid. His bunker game has always been a strength. I do think, look, with that mechanical adjustment, that mental and mechanical adjustment, he'll drive it straighter. He'll hit his irons and wedges better. He also needs to kind of work on like his mid-range pitching, I think. The short, touchy shots, he's really good with. Like the really short, like, shots that like, oh my gosh, like you could like kind of duff this one. He's really good at those. But it's like the 20 to 30-yard pitch shots that he lets kind of get away from him at times. So I think it was a success of a week for him. The fact that he was able, he didn't finish in last, so that's good. He 65 is 65, man. No matter how ugly he could get off the tee for him, which, just so everybody knows, I believe his last year on the PGA Tour in 2012, he was hitting 48% of his fairways. And I didn't look that up before today. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. So he struggled his last 2 years with driving on the PGA Tour. So if the guy can go out there and hit it straighter through the bag and putt the way he's been putting, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that we could look up and Anthony is a middle of the pack golfer on the LIV Tour. I don't think that that's unreasonable to think. I think it's unreasonable to think that he's going to be the best player on LIV. I think that's very unreasonable. But someone with his talent, his God-given ability, and his ability to putt the ball as well as he's been putting, and we know putting isn't always sustainable because it's an ebb and flow kind of sport. Not everything is going to work as well as it did the week prior. But I don't think he's as far off as some people think. And it's going to take time, but if LIV can sit there and they see that Anthony is literally a middle of the pack golfer by the end of the year on their tour, that is a success. That is 100% a success for sure. So yeah, but that's just some of the mechanical stuff that I've noticed, some of the mental stuff. And I say this because I do the same thing. So I'm just not like talking out of my ass. I do the same thing when I get nervous. So yeah, take it for what it's worth.
Yeah, that's actually a crazy stat. The fact that he was number one this week in putting average, and he's fourth on the LIV Tour, albeit everyone's played 4 events. He's only played in 2. So he has half the number of greens and reg putts to work with. But a putting average this past week of a 1.39 and an overall at a 1.59 is actually incredible. To put that into perspective, he has a better putting average over 2 weeks or 6 rounds as Patrick Cantlay does in the equal amount of time over the last 2 weeks. So like that right there is kind of the fun metric. And of course, I get it. Like the courses are very different. But at the very least shows that Anthony Kim does have the ability to perform to a degree. And look, again, like we're talking about a guy who hasn't played in 12 years. Like even me as a average Joe golfer took 3 months off because of the winter, not being able to swing outside of the confines of my apartment. And I'm coming over the top on every shot. I look like a fucking a sandbagger, like horrible. And then finally, my 3rd session, I finally kind of figure it out. It takes time to understand these things. And as someone who, even as a pro, to be off for as long as he was, there is at least an inkling that he could very well become a middle-of-the-road player. Think of a Kieran Vincent or someone, I don't know, Martin Jones, Richard Bland. Like, I think he could be around that area by year's end or by some point next year. Let's jump into some mail call. I saw a bunch of tweets on the Twitter machine that have basically been eyeing all different parts of this golf course and leaderboard, and a lot of betting going on now in the space for the players. We'll talk about that, of course, in Beer Money. But I have 2 questions here. One of them we already discussed was Scottie going back to back, so I'll follow into the other 2. You have played this golf course in the past. So first question, I want to get your take here. The 17th, of course, the Island Green at Sawgrass. Is it the hardest on tour or just the hardest at this event? Go.
Me personally, look, I mean, I don't know what the numbers say. I don't think it's the hardest on tour. It's a wedge to a green that is very large, albeit it's surrounded by water. No, it's not. I've played
Mind
that
games.
What's that? Yeah, I mean, it fucks with you, man. Like it does. Like I've been there during the tournament. I've played tournaments there. What makes that hole so hard? There's 3 things that make it difficult. Number 1, the visual factor, because it's surrounded by water. Okay. And I've seen it during the players, and I've seen it just during a normal junior event. The grandstands make it look a lot smaller. That I will give it. That I will tell you. The grandstands make it look a lot smaller. Number one, it's surrounded by water, right? So you hit it in the water, you're probably making 5. Okay. Number two, the slopes in that green are pretty severe. In particular, the one that pushes the ball down towards the front left portion of the green. I hit my pitching wedge right into the middle of that slope in a tournament, and I spun it into the water. Okay. So it's a pretty severe slope. Because look, I know they put the one pin down front. I know they put another pin back. I know they not put it, and then I know they put the Sunday pin over the bunker on the right. I don't know where the 4th pin would go, but the easiest pin is really front, because obviously the one on the right, you got to fade it in, and you're fading it towards the water, unless you really want to be like a big shot and start it over the water and turn it in, which not many guys are willing to do, because that's just not how you play a right pin. The back pin is probably the hardest one on that green, I would say, because if you hit it too far on that top shelf, because I believe it kind of kicks down to the back of the green towards the water, it will bounce over. And you see guys, when the pin is back there, they make 7s and 8s because they hit in the water, then they go to the drop zone, then they fly the wedge too far, and that goes over the green. So they have to drop again, do it again. So those are the first 2 things that make that hole in particular difficult. The third one is because you're surrounded by hills, because it's like the stadium hole, you're surrounded by grandstands and everything. There's a giant hill on the left. There's a giant hill behind the green with trees behind it. You have the grandstands behind you. It's very difficult to tell where the wind is coming from, actually. It's really hard. Like, I remember playing and I remember spectating and I was like, wow, I didn't realize how much harder it is to figure out where the wind is on this hole, because you're surrounded by hills and grandstands. So those 3 factors, just the visual, that it's surrounded by water, the severity of the slopes, and the fact that it's difficult to tell where the wind is coming from because of your surroundings. That's what makes it so difficult, in my opinion. Now, do I think it's the hardest on the course? No, I don't. That course in general is such a placement golf course. I've played it in tournaments where I've hit the fairway and I legitimately don't have a shot at the pin.
Yeah.
You know, like, you're happy to hit it to 30 feet at that point. And I've been in the fairway and I'm like, I can't get it towards the pin. Like, I can't. So, I mean, look, I would say, because of what I listed and like the visual aspect, I would probably say it's the middle of the pack in terms of difficulty on that course. I can think of a handful of holes on that course off the top of my head that are more difficult. Particularly like 14, 15, 10 can be very difficult, especially if you hit it too far right or through the fairway. Trying to think. I mean, I think 8 is a way harder par 3. 8 is a way harder par 3 because you're hitting 4 and 3 iron into that hole. It's a really tiny green, and you're hitting.
Yeah, it's narrow too.
You're hitting through a chute. Trying to think what else. 5. I think 5 is probably the hardest hole in that golf course, because you have water running up the right, and the whole fairway goes up and then down to the right.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I sent you that video one time. The guy hits his tee shot right. While the ball's in the air, the horn blasts.
Oh, Keith Mitchell, yeah.
Yeah, Keith Mitchell. And then he slams his club, and he's like, did it cross the cat? He's like, no. And you can see the look on his face. That's probably the hardest hole in that course. So I just listed like 5 holes for you that are far more difficult than 17, right off the top of my head.
So a little stat here from Justin Ray that I think is incredible. Where are we here? The last 3 seasons, the 16th, 17th, and 18th hole have yielded scores other than par 48.2% of the time, the highest success rate for a closing 3-hole stretch of any PGA Tour venue in that span. It's a par 3, par 5, par 3, par 4. The scoring average on those 3 holes, of course, you have 5, 3, and 4. That's 11, 17. in the last 3 years on average on the PGA Tour. Now, albeit, is that a little bit siphoned to the idea that you could be shooting a 9 or a 10 on 17? Maybe so, but the highest percentage of bogeys on this golf course come from the 18th hole. Guys trying to cut the corner too much. I also do think that you said it was the par 3 8th, I believe it is.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like that shoot right there. If you're hitting a hybrid or a low iron into it, the 2 bunkers surrounding the very front, you're basically going to have to sail it long, and then you're going downhill for the next putt, and you're going to wind up finding yourself either in the bunkers or off the green if you go wayward. I also think the par 5 9th, while not a very challenging shot, but like trying to go for it in 2 is incredibly challenging, and it's forcing you to lay up essentially. So that right there also is tough. I would say honestly the hardest hole in my opinion is, and again I haven't played it. I've only seen overheads and visuals, but the 16th hole, because of the way it's derived and the way that everyone tries to go for it in 2, you have to find the fairway, because the trees lined on the left will screw you over, because the second shot you're going to then basically fade it in because of the trees on the right. But then also there's a bunker short, a bunker to the left, and then all water behind you. So if you go low enough and hard enough, you're going to wind up either finding yourself off the green or in the water, and the pin placement's always close by. So you very well could also have a bunker shot if you try to get there too. You're probably going to wind up there with a 5, a birdie if you're lucky. So I think those right there are 2 of the harder holes from my visual that I can understand. And honestly, all these holes, every par 4 is a hole that you should be happy making par on. I don't think there's any hole that you could truly attack on this golf course and not be overly exerted by the idea of, wow, I actually made birdie here. I think that's how significant this course is, and I think that's why it's considered the 5th major, and it's why people love this event so much, because of the fact that it's so placement-based and it's so much more challenging than many of the events you see week in and week out on the PGA Tour. We segue that into our next question here. What is the most important metric to win at this golf course this week?
I mean, it's a shame that placement isn't a metric, because that's the type of course it is. It's just a placement style course. Honestly, in my opinion, it's driving accuracy. And I'm not just talking about hitting the fairway. I'm talking about hitting like the right part of the fairway. That's the most important part, because that's what's going to give you clear looks to hitting to the greens, whether it's a part whether you're going for a par 5 and 2, or whether you're trying to attack pin on a par 4, whether it's a wedge or like a low iron or whatever. I think that is the most important metric, is driving accuracy. But you have to heighten it even more and say you have to this part of the fairway. Hitting the fairway is not good enough out there, because not everyone can shape it 20 yards around a tree like Bubba Watson, or Phil, back in back on tour. So I'd say driving accuracy, in my opinion.
I would definitely say it's between. I'm going to go a little further than just driving accuracy. It's good. It's really a ball striking course too.
Oh yeah.
It's similar in a different way to Muirfield Village, where it's a very pick and pop course. Make your first shot, nail that shot, nail the second shot, 2 putt, call it a day. It sounds easy by design, but in reality, you're literally working with a 15-foot proximity at the very most, probably even less than that, in order to work your ball into every position that you need. And if you are even an inch or so out of position from there, you are going to have to shot shape it, and you're going to have to use every club in your bag, every shape that you have in order to get there. Again, it isn't really a stat per se. But like guys who play well on Pete Dye courses tend to really dominate on these courses.
Oh yeah.
Not that it's a similar Pete Dye design to everything else he makes. It's very much different. There's water on 16 of 18 holes, but the idea that you can Pete Dye is so significant in terms of shot shaping and needing to utilize that full bag. You can find guys who can get very creative here, like Matt Kuchar on 17, just fucking whacking it back. Like you're gonna need some luck, some cleverness, and a lot of really good ball striking in order to win here.
I have a Pete Dye story actually. So real quick,
should we save it or should we go? Fuck it. We're in too deep. Send it.
So, first of all, I've really never played well on P-Dye courses. They don't fit my game at all. So we played when I was at Xavier. We played West Virginia's tournament, and it was at a P-Dye course in Bridgeport, West Virginia. It's like Dyes something. P-Dye Golf Club. That's what it is. It's called P-Dye Golf Club. It's 7,300 yards. And if you know anything about West Virginia, when we played it the first year, we played in October. It was 45 degrees and raining the whole time, so the ball went absolutely nowhere. And then the next time we played it in April, and it was raining on and off. And it had snowed the week before, so they didn't cut the rough. So the rough was like 3.5 inches. So the course is already just like a pain in the ass to play. There's a pretty decent amount of water, and if you hit it out of play, you ain't finding it. Like, you literally are not. If you miss the rough, which is kind of easy to, the fairways were big, but if you miss the rough, you're in trouble. And so the 17th hole at that course, it's literally like the green is like a mini golf green. It is absolutely insane. It's one of the dumbest greens I've ever putted on in my life. And the members were so unhappy with the green, they brought Pete back to fix the green. But they kept writing. The story goes that the story I was told was they kept writing him letters and he wasn't responding. So they finally brought him back. They finally got him to come back. Instead of fixing the green, he put a windmill right behind it, and it was the middle finger to the it was viewed as his middle finger to the membership for not liking his design of the hole, which I think is pretty funny.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump into our beer money picks of the week, brought to you by Kenwood Beer. You might be asking yourself, who is Kenny? He's smooth, he's clean, he's bright, with an amazing taste to boot. Kenny's the routine choice of folks who want a balanced, flavorful, no-frills beer that is right for any occasion. Only 120 calories, 8 grams of carbs. Some call it the best light beer they've ever had. We just say you can't beat the original. Head to kenwoodbeer.com. Use the Kenny Tracker to find where you can get your hands on some ice-cold, refreshing Kenwood beer from your favorite liquor stores in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, as well as the Wells Fargo Center and beyond to watch the Sixers get crumbled this playoff season. Most 21 years or older to do so, of course. Please drink responsibly and gamble responsibly as well. We began with a top 20 pick this week at the Players Championship, TPC Sawgrass. Who you got?
Byung-Han An, I have for a top 20 finish. I'm really falling behind, I feel like, on my beer money picks, and I do not want to have to wear a dress while I play. So Byung-Han An, top 20 for me. I really need these guys to come through for me. Big time.
You're 2 behind. So you're look. There's still a lot of time on the calendar, big guy.
I know. There's a lot of time for you to build a bigger lead as well. So
that is true. I'm currently sweating multiple bets. I've gotten back into the sports gambling space. So to say that my bets hold more brevity than ever, it's true. I'm going to go with the Stroh-Skeen approach leader on the PGA Tour, Tom Hoge, for a top 20 this week. Top 10.
My top 10, I'm going to go with Cameron Young. I know he hasn't won on tour yet, and I just don't see this happening this week on this golf course. A first-time winner. I don't see it, man. But top 10 for Cam Young, I could totally see it. I think that's a good bet.
I'm going to ride with Shane Lowry for a top 10 this week. He's gone, I believe, 4th and 3rd, respectively, over the past 2 weeks. He plays so well in the Florida swing, and this is one golf course that he loves to play on. I believe he has the record for the most straight top 25s at this golf course, like 5 or 6 straight years. Top 5.
All right, my top 5 finish, I'm going to go with Ludwig Åberg. I think he's in for a good week. Again, first timer at this event. Can't see him winning, but I can certainly see him contending, especially considering how he started his PGA Tour career. He's my top 5 pick.
Top 5 for me, really good value at plus 600. Ball striking extraordinaire. If he can figure out the broomstick, I think he can go far. Will Zalatoris.
Ooh, that's good.
To come back and possibly win at this golf course would be a epic comeback story. Again, I really just think it comes down to the putter, but the putting greens are not as challenging as you'd think they are for PGA Tour standards, and some of those heightened, challenging courses. Again, it's really about the ball striking, which is where I think Will Zalatoris can like we always say, ball strike his way to the win. You're giving me this week.
Rory McIlroy missing the cut. It's my pick.
I love it. I hope he goes like 4 over the first day and turns around with like a backdoor 63, which he did. Which actually I think he did that last week. He was in the plus territory, and then he worked his way all the way up to like 5th, and then on moving day he just crumbled again. Because what else to do? Signature Rory. This is a quirky pick, but I kind of love it. Eric Van Rooyen has been on a absolute bender the last 6 weeks. I like him for a top 40 at plus 200. Again, like the numbers have been great for him. Driving accuracy has been phenomenal. Putting game has been really good. Approach play has been top 5 on the tour over the last 4 events. I love EVR top 40. Your winner at the Players.
Look, man, I just realized that I said that first-time winners don't really happen at this golf course, but I feel like this guy is in a different category as well. And I'm waiting for it to happen, and I just am so bullish on this person. I got to tell you what, man.
Tommy Fleetwood's winning this week. I could totally see it happening too. I feel like could you imagine? I feel like with that ball striking, with that overall great game that he has, I could how he's contended in majors. I could totally see him putting it all together this week. You think I'm insane, and that's fine.
No, I said the same thing last week, and he missed the cut.
I know.
One of the 7 fucking players to miss the cut at an event. It was him and Matt Fitzpatrick. Like, are you joking? Never again am I going to pick Englishmen to compete well in an event. It's scratchy, it's gross, it's not very fun, but the fact that he was so dominant on Sunday and the putter has turned around, and like I always say, whenever I take him, he wins in bunches. And when he finishes at such a high clip, a 5-stroke victory at Bay Hill, there's something to me that screams Scottie Scheffler masterclass over the next 5 to 6 weeks on tour that he could collect 3 wins. And I would not be surprised in the slightest if he wins at the Players, if he wins the Valero, or if he doesn't play the Valero, and then turns around and possibly wins the Masters again. I think all of which can very much happen. I will ride with Scottie Scheffler, the odds-on leader at plus 550 to win the event this week. Call it gutsy. I don't really know. I have the hiccups, so I'm like dying right now. Thank you guys for tuning in to get the whole podcast here. Episode 145. Be sure to follow, like, subscribe on our YouTube, Underground Sports PHI. Follow us on social at Getting the Whole Pod. Of course, me and Ben on our personals as well. God almighty. But the TikTok's blowing up. Follow that. Stay on the Instagram. Keep us following. Shout out to our sponsors. God. It's getting bad. Acorn Hills. Fuck. Tomahawk Shades. PHI Power Co., Kenwood Beer, and the rest. Thank you for tuning in. Enjoy the golf this week. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to Get in the Hole, the official golf podcast of Underground Sports Philadelphia. Catch us every week wherever you get your favorite podcasts, and be sure to like and subscribe on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Get in the Hole Pod, and follow Underground Sports Philadelphia at Underground PHI. We'll see you next time. And remember, get in the hole!